Both families with children and families with adults in need of care face a huge challenge because care is so expensive in the United States. There are some provisions in the tax code that can help families to afford care. And one that I have done some research on is the Child and Dependent Care Credit, or CDCC. CDCC is a tax credit that subsidizes the cost of care for families with children and families with a spouse or adult dependent incapable of self-care. The amount that you receive is based on your income and how much you spend on care in a given year. However, this tax credit has some features that limit its value to households with care responsibilities. One of those limitations is that the credit is non-refundable. This means that low-income families who don't owe taxes after the standard deduction and other deductions that they may take don't benefit. Even for higher income families who benefit from the CDCC, the credit doesn't really make a dent into the true cost of care. Benefits are capped at $1,200 per year for most families, and this is despite the fact that in recent years, median child care prices for just one child have ranged from about $5,000 to $15,000 per year. A few changes to the CDCC would make it much more valuable for families caring for children and adults. First, we could make the CDCC refundable. This would allow lower income families to receive benefits and would expand eligibility, particularly among non-white households and households relying on Medicaid-funded long-term care services. In my research, I find that making the CDCC refundable would extend eligibility to 5% of single parents and would nearly double the number of eligible spousal caregivers aged 51 to 65. Second, we could increase the generosity of the CDCC. This actually happened during the pandemic when Congress expanded the credit during 2021 only so that families could receive up to $8,000 that year. A similarly sized expansion would have a real impact on families with caregiving responsibilities. Third, we could separate the CDCC into a separate child care credit and a separate adult care credit with different eligibility requirements. This is because currently the credit is much better targeted at families caring for kids than for adults. There are eligibility rules that require that the person in need of care reside with the primary taxpayer, which means that families with a family member in a nursing home don't benefit. There's also a work requirement. And this maybe makes sense for families with young children who have a lot of future potential earnings, but makes less sense for older adults nearing retirement. So currently, the Child and Dependent Care Credit, it helps families pay for care, but it really doesn't make that much of a difference. If we implemented some of these policy changes, I think we could really make a dent into the cost of care that families are paying out of pocket. And this matters because it'll allow families to purchase more care, be less stressed about having to pay for care, and potentially even afford higher quality care, which matters particularly for children's long-run outcomes.